Okay, so today's special Tuesday Zoom share is going to be an interview. So we've done interviews in the past, but today I want to interview the Rebbetzin of our shul, my wife, Ariella Goldwicht. And we're going to be in conversation. Not really going to be an interview. We're going to be in conversation. We're going to talk about different things. We're going to talk about how we moved to Israel, Ariella's background, how we met. Maybe we'll reveal our story of how we met, Hashgacha Pratis, like any other story, Ariella's different involvements in different programs here in Israel, and maybe she could share with us some tips because she's an amazing Rebbetzin and an amazing mother. So Ariella, I'm going to open up the ground, a little bit of background, where you grew up, maybe how we met, if you want to get to that already. Jump right into it.
Hi, everybody. I want to see everybody.
Okay.
The first disclaimer is just that this wasn't the first time that I was asked, but it was the first time that I said yes. So I'm really looking forward, and I agree with my husband that this is important. That Baruch Hashem, I feel that we've all gotten to know each other much on a much deeper level over the last few weeks and the last few months. But the more we open up about ourselves and the more we learn about one another, the closer that we can become. So that's why this, for me, is a special opportunity. So I grew up.
Where were you born?
Yeah,
Where'd you
sure.
grow up?
I grew up in Teaneck, New Jersey, and I'm the oldest of 6 children. And so I'm used to having the children thing is not a new thing for me. I had some experience taking care of my younger siblings, and Baruch Hashem, that was helpful. And I went to Manhattan High School for girls for high school. For some of you who might be familiar, I went to Michlala for my year in seminary after 12th grade, and it was really a great experience. And we say everything is hashgacha pratit, but I had a really interesting experience that at the end of my seminary year, I had an opportunity to stay in Israel with a friend who wasn't here for seminary to do a different program for a month, and we stayed in Shari Chesed, Rechavia area. And that was my first opportunity to really see like the Hachnasas Orchim of this neighborhood, and I really learned a lot about this neighborhood even way before I was considering living here, and I had a really good experience as a young post-seminary student. After that, I went back to live with my parents in Teaneck, New Jersey, and I started Parsons School of Design, and I majored in graphic design and technology was the major, which was something that I was interested in already in high school. We had electives in our high school where we got to try out different specialties. And right away when I started learning computers, and I was always interested in art, but computers and art together, I connected to it right away. And I knew that that's what I wanted to specialize in and become a graphic designer. And many years later, I have to say that I'm still very, very happy with that choice. I still get very excited to finish projects and to learn new tools and new skills.
Okay, we'll get to that in a little bit. Ariella is super talented, and she's done a lot of amazing work. We'll get to that in a little bit as well.
And then when I finished my first year, we met, and it was a big decision as to whether to come to Israel right away or for me to finish my degree in the States. And we made the decision to come here right away. And I'm very, very, very happy with that decision. I can't say that it was the easiest transition for me. Even though it was something I was very excited about, it was definitely a process until I built my life here and built my career here and finished my schooling remotely instead of in person. And I left Parsons School of Design. Back then, learning remotely wasn't as trendy as it is now with everything going on. But thank God I managed, and that's
okay, so how do we meet? Do we tell them how we meet?
Sure, I think you could tell it over a lot better than I could.
Okay, so we met, we just like bumped into one another and we met. Like any good shidduch. No, so we didn't, that's not how we met. Our Hashgacha Pratis story really revolves around the two Siyum HaShasas ago.
In 2005.
Right, 2005.
January of 2005.
We were both like 15 then. Because we're very, very young still today.
We're pretending that we
we weren't actually 15.
That would be nice.
That would be nice. And so there is, I went to the Sima Shas, it was in Madison Square Garden, thousands of people, like 25,000 people over there. And I remember telling my father, was like, oh, who knows, maybe someone here has an idea for us. And I bumped into one of my father's friends from yeshiva, and who came in. He's a businessman actually from Los Angeles. He came into New York that day, and earlier that day came to New York. So he came to meet with your father.
Right.
Right. Her father, who works in the city, is a financial advisor, and they met. And my mother-in-law, every single day or every single week, would remind her husband, my father-in-law.
Just, yeah, it was just starting at that point.
Right.
Where she started to tell him that, like, you know, you work in the business world with many Jews, and you have a daughter who's that shidduchim age, so you should just, you know, keep all the different
keep options open
and to spread the word if you see anyone that might have a great idea. So I think it was his first time that he felt like it was somebody that he wanted to ask.
Right, so he didn't want to really mix business and pleasure and business and family, but this was a person, was a business acquaintance that he felt comfortable with. He said, you should know, I have a daughter in Shidduchim. And that evening, that person was in Madison Square Garden, and I happened to bump into him, and I said, oh, you're friends with my father. Why don't I show you where my father is sitting? So we interacted for just a little bit, and he flew back to LA that night, and on the plane, he's like, I met this person who told me he has a daughter in Shidduchim. I met this young man who is a son of my, so he only knew the two fathers, and he was a man. Can you imagine a shidduch that's just run by the fathers? But that was our shidduch. And he suggested it, and we went out, and the rest is history. The rest is history. But you know, one of the things that we discussed when we went out was moving to Israel. That's so how is that for you?
So. Very much so. So we have some little visitors at the door, to be expected. So I was brought up in Teaneck, which a lot of you are familiar with, and the Avira, the environment, the vibe in Teaneck is very much pro-Israel, Zionistic, and that's the way that also my parents really raised us. And my parents, when we were little, so they started coming first on their own on different missions and different trips once a year, and I saw their enthusiasm for Israel and for living here, even though they were visiting, but they always gave us that passion. And when I was definitely something I was always considering, but the fact that I had my parents' full support and emotional backing, it definitely made it much, much, much smoother to be able to live here.
Yeah, so we moved here. I remember when we moved here, one of the things that was the transition is that Ariella is super talented in art and in graphic design, and she was in Parsons School of Design, New York, which is like the top design school in New York, and the equivalent of that here in Israel is Betzalel. And that's where students they do exchange students abroad, is Betzalel School of Design. So we went to check out Betzalel for Ariella to be a student in Betzalel. You want to share that experience a little bit?
I did. I didn't have we weren't married yet. We came on a small trip before to scout things out when we were engaged. Yeah. To apartments and schooling, education options. So we went to Betzalel, and at the time they were having an exchange program with Parsons, so it was a possibility. But it wasn't the way it is today. Today, as far as I know, they're much more open to accommodating religious lifestyle and more accommodating to religious girls and married women specifically. But at the time when they saw that I was religious and engaged to be married, so they did discourage me and tell me that it wouldn't necessarily be something I would be able to keep up with. And I gave that a lot of thought, and the environment was very important to me, beside the language barrier at that time. And those two factors together, I decided that first I went to another program in Israel that was a little bit less stimulating maybe than Betzalel would have been. And then I decided to continue my education online. But I do have to say that from what I've heard recently, I think there have been a lot of strides in the university culture from people in general, and also from women and different types of tracks, or even if people are starting a family, there is more more accommodating to more part-time and different options than there were 15 years ago when we were 15.
Right. So Ariella is, I mean, so she finished the schooling not in Parsons, but she uses her talent. She actually designed 2 restaurants here in Yerushalayim. One was in Emek Farm. One was in our neighborhood. Do you remember where Hamish Essen is?
No.
Where Shabbos Bistro is right now on even Shaprut. There used to be a restaurant there called Velka a long time ago. It was there for like 5 years. Velka, it was like a coffee shop with like, so Ariella designed the logo, the menus, the entire language of the restaurant. She's also now launching.
Not launching.
Or you designed. Yeah. So she's also now designed the next Art Scroll cookbook is about to come out in like a month, and she was the designer of it. She's actually
Thank you, Sylvia. Sylvia was one of my big cheerleaders during this process, which was not an easy process.
She's actually super talented, but she doesn't want to speak about it because she doesn't want to speak about herself.
I'd rather not. But the cookbook, though, is not a cookbook that I'm producing, even though I happen to really, those of you who know me well know that I'm always cooking, and I sometimes show you my kitchen, and I cook a lot, and I enjoy it a lot also. But I'm actually working for somebody else who wrote a cookbook for Art Scroll, who commissioned me to be the graphic designer for this project. And it was definitely, I've done some bigger projects, mostly through like word of mouth, people that I know, and a lot of entrepreneurs here in Israel. But this was definitely the biggest project that since I do consider myself a stay-at-home mother, rather more than above the graphic designer, I would say as a stay-at-home mother, this was I took off something that was a lot to chew, but we managed. But it's very exciting, and it's called Peas, Love, and Carrots. That's the name of the cookbook, and it's coming out at the end of July. So if you guys are in any Jewish bookstores, I'm sure you'll notice it.
or you could buy it on Amazon.
Right.
Let's take a shift to our community, because we've been living here in the neighborhood now for 15 years, and 5.5 years ago, was the opportunity that came our way to join the shul. And I want to say that Ariella was really the one behind it, because I was very hesitant, but Chochmat Nashim Banta Beita, it's the wisdom of women who actually builds the home and drive the men to do anything. And I want to ask you, like, what was your thoughts? Why did you feel it was important to join the shul? And what we would get out of it, and also your involvement in the shul since.
Right. So I thought, first of all, it's one of the best decisions I think we've made. I think it's been so beneficial besides for whatever we can give, and hopefully we're giving a lot, but that's up to you to tell us. But what we're receiving is been so much, the relationship that we've created, and the amount of shiurim that you're able to give, and the platform to be able to give it. And it's been really a special opportunity. And I just really thought it was right for you as professionally and personally, and also for us as a family. And the friendships, yeah. Like when we first started the community, so I want to say that Rebbetzin wine, the late Rebbetzin wine, had a very tremendous impact on me in the first couple of years. We got together a few times outside of the shul. We went out for coffee a few times, and as most of you know, she was a Holocaust survivor and a teacher. And she was always educating and teaching students that weren't religious, and she had so much to give, and I felt like I learned so much from her, and she really gave me the confidence that you don't necessarily have to be the type of Rebbetzin that gives classes, or that whole, or in that way you can be still very much compatible to the Rav and be able to give over to the community, even if you're not necessarily giving to them on the same professional level or teaching shiurim. And that was a real eye-opener for me. And then I started to look at my role completely differently. That's the truth. I really started to realize that my individual relationships with people would really tie in everything that we're trying to do. And I think that my life has been so enhanced from those relationships that I've been able to build over the last 5 years. And when I did get to know people on a more personal level, so that's when we decided to start that program a few years ago, the Friendship Through the Generations, which was the visiting program with the seminary girls, the connection between different generations. I saw how much our community, especially the women, if it's okay to say, just maybe because I had more conversations with the women, had so much to give, so much life experience, and so many of you have grown up in different countries, whereas these seminary girls were coming mostly from, your typical Anglo countries and typical, more standard Jewish day school type of experiences. And I realized how much they would benefit as well from getting to know members in our community. And thank God it's really flourished very, very much. And we've had a lot of good stories and a lot of good experiences.
Yeah, so Baruch Hashem, that's been people don't realize how much time and effort that takes. And Ariella is always very like, no big deal, not a big, but it's like to coordinate a lot of different young girls and to try to understand what are their needs and their unique personality, and to pair them up, like who will they best learn from? Who will they best be able to be compatible with from our neighborhood? And many of you on this call have had different, seminary girls.
Really have given back to the younger generation. And what I saw is that everybody benefited, really everybody. It wasn't only that the young girls benefited or the women in our shul, really everyone. There's one woman, I don't think she's here now, but she's a silk painter, and it's a very unique talent. And she specifically requested if there were any artistic girls that were interested in the program. And so we sent her 2 girls, and I think she really enjoyed their company, and they learned a new skill over the year. Something that they wouldn't have otherwise learned. So it was really, there's so many special outcomes of this program. It's been exciting.
Yeah, it has been exciting, and it's really a tremendous sakar satov to you guys, and to
really to the women of the
shul. And to Ariella for really putting it together, because it takes a certain sensitivity, which I think you could appreciate, which is to understand the members of our shul, which is what we call a gila shlishi. It's like people with life experience. They're much older, but it's also to understand these young, 17, 18-year-old girls, which are coming with straight out of high school. They don't understand so much. They have their expectations and their iced coffee and their trips and their, whatever they might have. And to put that together, and it's really a friendship through the generation that it takes, somebody like Ariella to connect that. And I think that's really amazing. I want to bring out one more point. You were really involved in pushing different families in this neighborhood to start a new school, a school that is unique for Anglos that come to Israel. Like, what was your thinking behind that, and what was unique about the school?
Just describe the school
that you started. So you describe.
Okay. So I'm sure many of you have, if you've passed by Karen Kayemet lately near Katsefet on the top, then you've heard a lot of boys screaming. Most people are aware that there's a new boys school in right next door with that wooden like facade outside next to Karen Kayemet between like the newspaper store. So we had our, our oldest is already 14, and we were quite young, and we ended up sending him to school outside of the neighborhood because we didn't feel like we had a good local option. And he had an okay experience, but we felt like there was a great need in our community, specifically hashkafically, for like young families who wanted like a certain type of balance that you might not necessarily have in like the Haredi system, but we didn't necessarily want something more patuach. We felt that we had enough parent body to create something from within that would really supplement, that would really enhance the hashkafa that most people were really trying to create in their own homes for boys specifically. So when Ariel was he's in first grade now, so 2 years ago, I think, when he started in the Gan age, we started getting more families together who are like-minded, and so far, Baruch Hashem, we're very lucky. We have an excellent principal. And we didn't start the school. We're the parent body who's fueling the school. And it's something that we are very proud of because I felt that it was a need in the neighborhood, and this is filling that need. So it's very, very exciting. We're like, it's only at the first grade level now, but we plan to incorporate more and more education and extracurricular activities. What the parents are looking for.
Pretty much Ariella got together with a few other friends, and it's always the women who are able to push things forward. And they said there's no school in this neighborhood for boys, and we want to create something that is unique, something that will give added learning for this, to give them real good Torah education, to learn Chumash and Gemara and Mishnah and all the things. But also, they can learn electronics, and they can learn sports, and they can learn science on a high level. That's something that's missing here, and from the Anglo community is used to getting that, a high level of Torah learning, but also exposure to different skill set. Right. And I think that's what's unique about this school. And for next year, we have over 100 kids already signed up.
Over 4 different grades.
4 different grades, and it's just the third year into being, and it's amazing to see the different types of families that are coming together to build this. And you see that there's a need, and I think that the Rebbetzin school is going to be an example of many schools that are, because there's such a wave of people interested in making Aliyah now, and they're looking for a school that's not, it doesn't fit into the Israeli boxes. Israeli schools are very into boxes. It's either very this or very that or very, and the Anglo schools are more inclusive, and I think that's something.
Right, but we're not speaking English in the school. It's a large Anglo contingency, but it's very much an Israeli school that falls under the Israeli school system. And just on that topic, I think I would say, Baruch Hashem, we have been here for 15 years, and I'm so happy. I wouldn't change it for the world. But I think it is important, as like you spoke about in the past, encouraging people to make Aliyah. I think it's very important that we recognize all that's good here, but that we're also able to recognize certain things that we brought with us from America, let's say, and that would be maybe that sense of like the type of education that we're looking for, and not to be afraid to try to create the reality that we want to see here. And I think that also empowers more people to be able to make Aliyah when they, instead of looking like, oh, Israel doesn't have this that I'm used to or that I'm used to, but rather let's bring with us the good that we're used to and incorporate it with all the good that we have here.
It's sort of like our shul, which is like, most Israeli shuls don't function like our shul functions. And but we incorporated the best of what Israel has to offer and the best of what the American and Anglo shul types have to offer. But, a lot of our members from England or from the United States, and each one brought from the United Synagogues or from the Young Israel or from the different things. And together we've created the beauty of our community, of our shul. And I think that's something that people are looking for, especially people who are going to be making Aliyah. They're looking for that community that is welcoming, that is nice, that is, has programs and shiurim for adults, for children. And I think that's something that our kehila and our community has been doing. So if we were to sum up, how would you sum up being a Rebbetzin for 5 years in our shul?
It's really, really, really been special. And it's really a credit to everyone here. And I want to say thank you. I would just like I just feel like because we're blessed to be able to know such a variety of people in the neighborhood, and so many, the young families and the members of our shul, and we pretty much know a lot of people. So I would say that the more and more I realize like the talent in our shul and the life experience in our shul, the more I think, and I'm looking for suggestions. Maybe we have to wait a little bit till Corona subsides, God willing, to ways to really connect the younger families in our community to the members of our shul, because I really believe that we're so blessed and we have gained so much that I would be so thrilled to be able to open those pathways for other families to be able to connect, whether it's Shabbos afternoons or I would love, I'm open, you guys everyone could email me, but I'm open to different suggestions for how to make better connections where both sides could really benefit. One other project that I would love to see if anyone would be interested in which is also based on like the experience that I have with the members of our shul, would be I love to write. So I always thought of like interviewing some members in our community, and just for people to be more open about their experiences, their life experiences, their parents, their history, their siblings, and also to be able just to pass on those experiences to the younger generation. I told my husband this, that like I thought that when I went to, unfortunately, Shiva calls of that when members of our community were sitting Shiva, I had the opportunity to hear amazing family stories that I never would have otherwise heard. And I keep saying, like, why do we have to wait till we're in those circumstances for these rich family history and stories to come out? So I would love to follow through with that in any way, and I'm open to all suggestions.
Ariella is always filled with great ideas. Just so you should know, one of the first programs that Ariella did in our shul was, I don't know, some of you were there. She thought of doing a Friday night dinner in our shul for lone soldiers. For America.
Actually, one of our members had the idea, Mr. Lionel Shepson, and he connected with me, and we had a really great time planning this event.
Right. They were partners.
Yeah, and it was really meaningful. He believed in me because it was the first thing that I ever really put together through the shul, and
so big shout out to Lionel.
Yeah.
Lionel Shepson. He was amazing at pushing this forward, and we created, it was 20 families, I think, and 30 lone soldiers, something like that.
Yeah, I think 15 and 30.
15 families and 30 lone soldiers, boys and girls, who came for a Friday night dinner in our shul. The point wasn't to do a Friday night dinner for them every month, but to do it once and to let them know that our community could be a home for them. And I think like 5 or 7 of them actually kept in touch with us. And we sent them a little bit to some of our members, but a lot of times they just came to our house for years. We just had a few of them, you know, not so long ago, right before Corona, we had them over as continuing that relationship, almost 5 years since we first met them.
It was interesting. It was like a small group, but then they opened us up to like a larger group of their friends. And it's really boys that have absolutely no family in Israel, and they only were here as Hayalim. Some of them are creating for themselves now their own life in Israel and making Aliyah. Others are considering going back. But we really became like family to them, and it's a really special project. And some other families in the shul got involved, and a lot of younger families outside of our shul, but in the greater Shari Chesed Rehavia neighborhood, have hosted these group of boys for Shabbos meals almost consistently for like 4 years, I think. And it's been a really, really special experience. And our kids have learned a lot about what it means to sacrifice for the land of Israel, and they really look forward to these guests. And that was one of our big challenges during this Corona season, is not being able to have those types of guests that our children really look forward to.
That's right. And they look forward not just because they come with their guns,
right,
but also because of that.
It's true.
Okay, so this was a little bit of a sneak peek into the amazing life of Rabbanit Ariella Goldwicht, and really a big thank you to all of you guys. And I think during this entire Corona time period, and we've been saying this, is really an opportunity for us to get to know one another, to see each other, and to hear our stories. And it's a real pleasure for us. It's an honor for us to be in the shul, to be a part of this amazing kehila, a part of this amazing neighborhood, to get to know each and every one of you. And we just want to say thank you. Thank you for giving us that opportunity. Okay, I'm gonna take it off of. Put it on this. We have the grid.